Coming to you live from a Walmart parking lot and a men's restroom, this is Thicc Man Inc.
We're live. You're their host, top 100 Madden player Tristan Kilgannon, and ESPN featured athlete Isaiah Ashley. We're going to be bringing to you our top 5 NBA teams entering the All-Star break. Leave a like, subscribe. Let us know who your top 5 NBA teams are up to this point. And Isaiah, start us off with your number 5 ranked team.
Well, before I get into my number 5, I'm going to start off with a dishonorable mention, a team which a lot of people had on these type of lists before the season started, a team which should be on this type of list. The 76ers are a joke of a team. They will always be a joke of a team if this current trend keeps up. Joel Embiid's lazy and out of shape. Ben Simmons can't hit a three-pointer still. Had a whole 3 off seasons in the NBA to work on. Can't do it. Al Horford's been underachieving, and yet again, a team he's on has a cancerous locker room. It's a terrible setup. Even though this team was supposed to be good. Incredibly disappointed them. They should be better. But my number 5 team, I bounced around a lot. There are about 4 teams who I think could really be in this spot. And while teams like the Raptors and the Celtics are both really good in the regular season, I don't think they have a guy who can just take over and elevate their team come playoff time. Same thing with the 76ers. They're completely dysfunctional. They should be in the spot, but hey. I ended up settling on the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is having another first-team All-NBA center season, while guys like Will Barton, Jamal Murray, and Gary Harris have all taken real steps forward. Pair that with the fact the Nuggets have one of the best home court advantages playing in Denver, a city no one wants to travel to and play out with the altitude difference, and they will continue to haul down many regular season wins and probably win a playoff series or two. And while they suffer from a similar issue as their teams I named, as in I don't think they have a guy who can just take over. Right? Jokic is good, but I don't think he's that good. They're better than pretty much anyone else I can think of besides a few teams in the East and West.
I do not have the Nuggets at the same position with you, but a lot of points you made I agree with. But I have them slightly higher on my list. But coming in at number 5 for me is the Toronto Raptors. What do you know? The Raptors are still a good team. Turns out that Kawhi Leonard, while he got the Raptors over the hump, is not the only reason the Raptors won a championship last year. Pascal Siakam has stepped up big time, has 23.5 points a game, shooting 45.8 from the field, 36 from 3, and has 7.5 rebounds 7.5 steals along with 2.5 rebounds.
7.5 steals?
No, sorry, I fucked that up.
Language slur.
Whatever, you get the point. He's having a good year.
He's having a good year.
And he's improved every year since his first year in the league, which was 4 years ago. I do not have the Raptors higher on my list only because they don't have Pascal Siakam isn't as big, isn't a superstar yet like the Nuggets having Jokic and the other 3 teams I have above them on my list. So that's why I have the Raptors at 5. And I know like Isaiah thinks, oh, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. But we haven't seen them with a Pascal Siakam that's performing this well. Fred VanVleet is averaging 18 points a game. Kyle Lowry is also averaging 18 points a game. So I think they're going to be able to do something in the playoffs. They got Giannis is in the East, so I don't know about making a championship, but I still think they're a very dangerous team.
My issue with the Raptors is this. DeMar DeRozan has also had a few 23, 24 points per game, few really good defensive years, in my opinion. Looked very similar statistically to Pascal Siakam. I know they're completely different players, but in terms of level of skill, I just don't see there being that big a difference. And while this team certainly could make the second round of the playoffs, I see it as a very slim chance they compete in a second-round series if they get faced against one of the big dogs in the East. Those are my thoughts on the Raptors. Moving on, my number 4 team is the Miami Heat. So, a team with one of the second-best two-way players, an all-star center, and 2 Rookie of the Year candidates is pretty real. It's very real. The Miami Heat front office has done an amazing job of building a system around Jimmy Butler, much like the one he had in Philadelphia, surrounded by some very good defensive players, surrounded by a all-star center who's capable of performing night in and out, and having a few shooters off the bench. This team is also a great mix of young and old talent, with guys like Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn playing lights-out basketball, giving, I think, Miami Heat the best draft in one of the last few decades. And they've got guys like Goran Dragic and new acquisitions like Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, who will be big come playoff time and are very good for leading this team. And who could forget about Bam Adebayo, the most improved player of the year, in my opinion, one of the few centers capable of producing a high level of assists per game, an underappreciated skill in the NBA for that position. He's averaging 16, 10, and 5. and it's very impressive. He's like Nikola Jokic in a way, but better on defense. All in all, I think it's safe to say this is the second best team in the East, and a team which will no doubt make the conference finals unless they get faced against my higher ranked Eastern Conference team early.
I have no idea how you have the Heat as the second best team in the East, let alone a top 5 team in the NBA. They have the 7th best record in the NBA. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They are very good in home games, 22-3, but in away games they're 13-16. So what is that going to mean come playoff time? They're absolutely horrific away. So that is something to worry about. I think you're a lot higher on their roster than I am. I do think that they're a lot better than I originally thought coming into the NBA season, but I don't think they're a top 5 NBA team up to this point, let alone second best in the East.
I'd be curious to see who you have in the Eastern Conference ahead of them. I already talked about my opinions on the Raptors, who I think are lacking in the guy department. The Celtics, who I love Kemba Walker, Charlotte Hornet, great. If you have to have Kemba Walker and Jimmy Butler take over a game, I am picking Jimmy Butler every day of the week, 365 days a year. Jimmy Butler is a better number one option. I think the other piece around is substantially better than all the other teams in the East, again, bar one.
I mean, you already saw one team I have, and I think a lot of people agree that the Bucks are a lot better than the Heat.
Shocker.
So...
But go on, Tristan. What is your number 4 team?
My number 4 team, who was your number 5 team, and the Nuggets are good year in and year out. The specimen that is Nikola Jokic is one of the better passing centers we've ever seen in the league. And you also have a nice piece in Jamal Murray putting up 19 points a game with almost 5 assists. And then they have good role players around him, such as Gary Harris and Paul Millsap. You can argue that, in my opinion, with the Raptors being better than them because they have Kyle Lowry, Siakam is a better combination. But with Jokic having the superstar power, them playing as a collective unit, they've been at the top of the standings. Was it past 3 years in a row now? And they are the only other team in the Western Conference to have more than 21 wins against the rest of the Western Conference, besides the Lakers, who have 28 wins against the Western Conference, and the Nuggets have 25. The big question is how the Nuggets perform in the playoffs against the innovative Rockets offense. I do not know, but I have them at 4.
Well, that's assuming they play the Rockets, but it's splitting hairs at this point to argue over 5 and 4 seeds, in my opinion. I think the Nuggets are good. You think the Nuggets are slightly better. I don't think they've got a real shot. You probably don't think they've got a real shot either compared to some teams.
I don't either.
But hey.
But I mean, as far as like where they are right now, I think they're the 4th best team.
They're a very good team, but they're not a great team. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Now I think we're going to get to the next 2 we're probably going to disagree on.
Moving on to my number 3 team, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Lakers are a great team this year. The combination of Anthony Davis and LeBron James has worked out great so far in LA. And while this team does have some issues in terms of a bench and depth and even some of their starters, it doesn't really matter when you've got 2 top 10 players in the league. You don't need that much depth to come playoff time when you got LeBron and AD. And while this may bite them in the backside come conference finals time, I don't think it'll be an issue for the regular season. They're not losing the number 1 overall record in the West. They're going to cruise to an easy first round, maybe even an easy second round matchup in the playoffs. Lakers are a good team right now, a great team right now.
Before I give my opinion on the Lakers, I'm going to give you my opinion on the team I have 3rd, a team that I think you probably have 2nd. The Clippers, and I know Isaiah's high on. He's a fan of Kawhi Leonard.
Not true.
And they are not the number 1 team. They are the number 3 team in the league right now. They only have 21 wins against the rest of the Western Conference. And I know we're going to say load managing, but this includes a 28-point loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are arguably the worst team in the league, and D'Lo wasn't even playing. But Kawhi and Paul George were, and they lost by 28 points. They also lost to the Grizzlies earlier in the year by 26, and Kawhi Leonard was playing. They've had some bad losses this year where their best players are still in the court and not being load managed. Now, they're still one of the best teams in the league. They've beat the Lakers twice. I'll get to that when I'm talking about the Lakers. And they have 2 of the top 10 players in the league, top 50, however you rank those
Paul George
players.
does not belong anywhere near the top 10.
Okay, top 10, top 20. They're still 2 of the best players. Oh, everyone knows Kawhi is, but Paul George, however you rank him, however you value him, is still one of the best players in the league. They will be there come playoff time with a very good chance to go all the way, but I still think that the Lakers are the better team in LA right now.
My issue with that statement is the Los Angeles Lakers, they've lost to 1 or 2 bad teams, but real teams often lose to terrible teams. It's not an uncommon occurrence, and the regular season is 82 games long. It's almost like baseball in a way. You're going to lose some games to bad teams. That is not what you want to crucify the Clippers for losing to. That is my opinion on the matter about losing games to bad teams. It doesn't matter in the regular season as long as you're a high seed in the playoffs. But moving on, my number 2 team is the Los Angeles Clippers, and LA is truly a basketball mecca. They've got 2 of the best teams in the league, 2 of the biggest stars in the league. And right now, the man in LA, in my opinion, is Kawhi Leonard. I do not love Kawhi Leonard's play style in terms of very boring mid-range shots and go on the defensive end. I don't love him as a person based off his fiasco in San Antonio. I think he's got a dull personality, but I cannot deny he is one of the best players in the game. And I would like him to be my team's best player come playoff time. And you've got Paul George, who is a better two-way player than 99% of the league out there. You have, yet again, for about the 4th year in a row, the best bench in the league in Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams leading it up. Both could be starters on about 20 other teams and real players, maybe even all-stars in Lou Williams' cases, and they're coming off the bench. They add another solid two-way player at the trade deadline in Marcus Morris, the noted LeBron stopper. And they have Patrick Beverley, the dog, who blocked LeBron James's game-tying shot in the last matchup between the Clippers and the Lakers, which is something I will mention too. The Lakers have lost to the Clippers twice, even though they did not have Paul George for one of those matchups. And I think when it comes down to it, when they need to win games, the Clippers will be able to beat the Lakers 4 times in the 7-game series.
I mean, I've kind of talked about why I disagree with you. When it comes down to the Lakers losing to them twice, I can turn it right back at you. If when they play each other in the playoffs, the Lakers have ample time to game plan, really get down how to attack Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And when you're in the regular season and you're not planning on playing a 7-game, however many game series it lasts, you don't have necessarily the best game plan lined up to beat that team. But in my opinion, the Lakers are the second best team in the league. And the only reason I have them here instead of at number 1 is because of the man called the Greek Freak up in Milwaukee. LeBron has been surging through the regular season, playing 51 games up to this point, averaging 25 points, 10.8 assists. He would be the MVP if it wasn't for the historic display Giannis has been putting on this year. When you have LeBron, of course, you're going to be in the conversation for a championship with the exception of last year. And when you add another top 5 player, that makes you even harder to beat. Anthony Davis has been dominant, playing through a few bumps and bruises, and he's been the perfect number 2 to LeBron's 1. And I know, and I talked about the Clippers, 2 losses, but they do not have any losses against any current non-playoff teams. The worst team that they've lost to is the Magic, who are the 8th seed currently in the East. So I think they're in very good position the rest of the year, and they have the best record against the Western Conference this year, out of the Western Conference teams.
Some issues with some stuff you said. You said, they don't have time to game plan, make preparations. The 2 times they have played the Clippers has, 1, been on opening day, which they had ample time to prepare for, and 2, been on Christmas, which they had ample time to prepare for.
Do you not agree that game planning in a series is a completely different thing than any regular season game?
Do you not agree that Doc Rivers is a better coach than any of the cast of characters they've got leading the way in LA?
Yeah, Doc Rivers is a better coach.
Yeah, I have more faith in his game planning. Substantially.
But do you not agree that LeBron and AD are arguably both better than Kawhi?
I don't think it's a good argument for AD. You can make it, you can be wrong. Anthony Davis has won 1 playoff series in his life, and while putting up good regular season numbers, has never been able to put a team over the top.
Okay, but AD is better than Paul George.
Okay.
If you want to compare 1s and 2s.
I want to compare 1s and 8s, since that's about as deep as the benches go in the playoffs. And 1, I think, is incredibly comparable between LeBron and Kawhi Leonard come playoff time. You will disagree because you're a LeBron stan, but they're both really, really good. Kawhi's got an advantage on defense. LeBron's got an advantage on offense. I'll give you AD over Paul George. I think he's a better player.
They're going to have DeMarcus Cousins come playoff time.
Hey, DeMarcus Cousins. 5 minutes a game of good old Cousins. I have faith in him for that, but 1 through 8, the Clippers are a better team, top to bottom.
And it looks like we agree on something for once at number 1.
It's very fascinating, really. But at number 1, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. And you're telling me the best player in the league, the man who will win back-to-back MVPs, the man who clearly has next, has improved the only part of his game which can be considered a weakness and gotten it to the point where it's slightly below average. Oh yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks are the number one team in the league by far. Giannis has upped his three-point percentage from 25%, which is awful, to 31%. Oh, and he's shooting twice as many threes per game as he did this year as compared to last year. If you had just Giannis and a bunch of G League/college players, I would put this team in the top three. He is that good. But it's not just Giannis. Chris Middleton, for the second year in a row, is an all-star, and he's shooting 44% from three while being a solid defensive option. Eric Bledsoe is a dog in the defensive end who can score inside effectively. Brook Lopez is incredibly underappreciated. He's had multiple 7+ block games this year and is a good second option to get it dumped off to him in the post by Giannis if he's stopped at the rim. And you have George Hill, who is shooting above 50% from three, and yet again will be a surprise weapon in the playoffs for the Bucks to utilize. This is so far and away the Bucks league to lose. They will win the title unless Giannis screws it up somehow.
I don't think it's there that far out ahead that it's a guaranteed championship unless Giannis screws it up. I do think they're very obviously the best team in the league. You made the point about Giannis' statistics: 30 points a game, 13.5 rebounds. Middleton's shooting percentages are crazy. And then they also have the Lopez brothers. What's not to love there? They do not have they have a ton of talent. I don't know if it's as much talent as the Clippers and Lakers.
Ask yourself, what talent do the Lakers have besides LeBron and AD?
They got good old Dwight. They got Danny Green.
I'll let you keep talking about the Bucks.
They got Kyle Kuzma. They got a bunch of goons, Isaiah.
Goons is the operative word because they are garbage.
It's pretty impressive for the Bucks also because they lost Brogdon, who's a big part of their team. And he was putting up good numbers last year. And they've gotten even better. A big part of that, like you said, Giannis' three-point percentage improvement. The only way I see them losing the East is if the 76ers decide to sniff their own potential. They might have to worry. But congratulations to Milwaukee fans on your success before Giannis leaves you for the Lakers next year.
That will not be happening. And even if the 76ers figure it out, my main thing there, they can just crowd the paint. They can't crowd the paint anymore on Giannis. If you leave Giannis wide open, he will make 35+% of threes.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see Giannis in an NBA championship if they're able to pull through.
Truly fascinating. But that has been our video so far. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe. We're not asking you to. We're just implying it. And we will see you next week.